here with you, otherwise known as my wife's crafts, and I just wanted to take a few minutes to kind of talk to you about my process that I use to create this double page TN size hybrid layout. And to create this layout, I actually use this new collab that is out, and it is available at the Lily Pad. And it is this new birthday bash collection that is designed by Soko and Nini Goes Digi. And as I walk you through my process, I'm going to kind of focus a little bit on how I created the background looks that I have. I can tell you that since I knew this page was going to be super busy with all the balloons, I wanted to keep this page more balanced, but I still wanted enough interest added to the page. So I will discuss how I created this look for that as well. And when I do my hybrid layouts, I tend to always start in Photoshop. And I do that for a couple of reasons. One is it allows me to scale everything to the appropriate size that my final output is going to be. And I tend to work with different size albums. I like to do mini albums. I do 6x8 albums. Right now, I seem to be doing a lot of traveler notebook size or TN size albums. That just seems to be one that I've really taken a liking to. Occasionally, I'll do 8x10, and I don't do much 12x12 anymore. It really tends to be a 6x8 and smaller. So by creating this in Photoshop, it allows me to really appropriately size everything so that I have a nice cohesive look. I tend to set my TN size layouts up like this, and I will enlarge this just a little bit so that way it's easier to see. And the reason why I do that is because it allows me to see how everything flows from the left to right. When you're doing a 12x12 size layout, you kind of have everything all on one page, and if you want to print that size, that's great. It's all right there. Well, when you're looking to split it up between two pages, you still want to make sure that there's a good flow and that it's cohesive, and that if things are going to be split, that they split in the right area to where it doesn't mess up with the flow of your picture. So those are just different things that I consider. Also, another reason why I like to use Photoshop is because by laying everything out, I'm then able to print only what I need for the layout. So that way I don't have to print all the elements from the kit. And some of the elements I end up duplicating, triplicating, however many times that I want to create my look. So this allows me to really control the outcome. It allows me to maximize my paper usage to where I'm minimizing my waste. And it also allows me to minimize waste of ink. Now, I think my printer is absolutely fabulous. At the same time, though, I still want to be conservative with the ink that I'm using because that is a cost. And so I just kind of want to balance that out as I go. And if you look at I'm going to come back over here again just to bring up my, my layout. So if you look here in the background, you can kind of see on the left-hand side, I have a pattern paper underneath my balloons. And then on the right-hand side, I also have a pattern paper or a pattern background. In both of these looks, I created them in Photoshop, and I'm going to show you how I did that. So for both sides, I started with a solid background. And I'm going to start with my left. I'm just going to bring this in here, and I'm going to just clip it to my left page. Now, when I am working, if I know that I'm going to use the same color again, I try to go ahead and clip it to that next page. So I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this and drop it up to my right page and click it as well. Now, for my left page, since I started off with this dark navy as my base, I then added this pattern paper in. And I just clipped this paper right on top of that navy background. And then I went up here and I applied the multiply blend mode. and I tend to play with my blend modes a lot. It just allows me to really customize my look, and that's another thing that I really do enjoy about hybrid. There are just so many options that you can do with the hybrid approach, and you can use the same kit, and because you can print some things, you can blend them before you print them. It really allows you to customize the look and make your final layout look even more unique and very personable to you in your style. So here I have, I've created my background for my left hand side, and now for the right, what I did, I pulled in this word art. I really love this word art, and I wanted to use it, and I try not to do overkill because sometimes I can with my ideas. So what I did is I brought in the happy birthday word art. I'll go ahead and drop that in there. And I brought in the hooray word art. And I just kind of played around with the sizing until I got it the way I wanted. And I kind of wanted them both to fit together on like one row, so to speak. So it did require me to just kind of play around and adjust things. And sometimes when you're working with TN size, the sizes can vary slightly just depending on where you purchase the albums. Now, I have fallen in love with a particular album, so I tend to use the same brand of albums. They're by Citrus Twist. So I already know the sizing of the pages that fit in there, so it's very easy for me to go ahead and move around and make things, even if I run out of album space, because I already know what album I will buy for my layouts to fit in. But just kind of keep that in mind, that depending on the brand, the layout, the sizing of the traveler notebook can vary just a little bit. Now this, I think I want to make that hooray. It's running away. It's like, no. A little bit bigger and make my happy birthday just a little bit smaller. And I like it, just kind of gives it a little bit of a fun funky look. Okay, I'm kind of happy with that. Now what I did from here was I actually just changed my opacity, I think, to about 50%. If I had time, I actually was going to try to do like a little bit of embossing powder on it, but that didn't quite work for me this go around. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and duplicate this happy birthday, and I'm going to drop it down here, and I'm going to duplicate this array and bring it over here. Tweak this a little bit. And when I get these backgrounds set to the way that I like them, I do end up just like kind of merging those layers all together so that way it's done. Sometimes I wait towards the end before I actually do that, before I print. And just in case I need to tweak anything, it's easier to fix it if I haven't merged layers together. But just know that that is an option, and when you decide to merge them is up to you. So now I've selected all of this, and I'm just going to duplicate it. Whoops, no I'm not. I'm going to duplicate it. I duplicated that. Okay, what happened here? One of them didn't duplicate. Let's try that again. Now that I've duplicated it, duplicate it again, and just so that I have kind of this repeating pattern. And let's try one more time. I may have to zoom out on this just a little bit. Just adjusting these so it's a little more balanced here. You kind of have to play with it. Okay, so there I have my background look. Let me just zoom out just a little bit, so that way maybe the screen won't jump around. And I am going to wait to merge my background paper to the very end, just in case I need to tweak something. I have an opportunity to tweak it. Now going back to the left hand side, I actually used a cut file that I have that I had obtained from the Silhouette design store for my balloon shape. And once I brought that shape in, gotta see if I still have the shape. I do. Once I brought this shape in, I then sized it how I wanted it, however I wanted it. And ultimately what I did was I duplicated this and I positioned my balloons all over my page to achieve the look that I wanted. And once I had all the balloons kind of layered the way I wanted them, I then went through and I clipped paper. So that way I would have a random look. And another reason why using Photoshop is an excellent idea is because when I print, I drag them to a different screen to print them. And it keeps my layout the same way, so that when it comes to assembly, my digital creation of it is a good roadmap for my hybrid layout. Now, I have already mocked up these balloons, so I'm not going to go through and repeat them all, but I just wanted to show you the balloon shape that I used. I did get it from the Silhouette design store. It was stacked balloons, and I just pulled out the smallest size to resize it for what I needed. I'm going to go ahead and hide this, but I do want to show you what the balloons look like once they're completed. So I took the balloons, I multiplied it that many times as I was laying them out on the page. And you can see here, I have some of the balloons that are kind of hanging out. And so that was just letting me know that if I have any that's hanging over the edge of the side, then I'm going to have to trim them down to fit my page. This is a good roadmap, and you will see if you actually look at my layout, and I'll pop it back up right now. Wow, my design is close. It's not exactly how it is laid out here on my digital design. It's just because as you're starting to lay it out, it's very hard to recreate this exactly, but I was able to use this as a roadmap to guide me. And when I create my digital layouts, my hybrid layouts, when I create them in Photoshop, I try not to add any drop shadows or anything like that. Sometimes I will, just to see if I want to use like a 3D pop-up sticker on the back of it to add dimension. It kind of helps me better understand like what I need to do. So if you kind of want to see what that would look like on this, if I were to add a drop shadow, you can kind of see there, oh, okay, it adds a little bit of dimension. But when I print them, I make sure that I have no shadowing added. And then what I did was, I knew that I wanted some word art in here. So I brought in this label. For the label, I kind of wanted it to be, I wanted it to have a presence. So I just kind of centered it right here. And then I brought in this word art. Nope, it's the wrong one. after I brought in this word art, I decided that I needed Celebrat to have a little bit of a crown. And that it pretty much completes the left-hand side of my page. Now coming over onto the right-hand side, there's a couple of things that I do like to do. I've already brought my photo in, but I do want to speak about my photo a little bit. I'm going to pop it up here just a second. Let me find it. So when I bring a photo in, I usually create my own mask, and that is what I did in this particular instance. I clipped my photo to it. I added a stroke because I wanted my photo to have this edge. The white border, shouldn't say edge, but the white border. Now I will tell you, in order to make sure that it's an easy cut afterwards, what I do too is I will add a stroke to my photo, and I will put it, I want to show this to you. I will add my stroke, it's like 4 pixels, and I put it on the outside, and I do it as a light gray. And let me back up. After I add my stroke on my photo, what I do is I then convert my photo to a smart object. And that makes this white stroke stick in the photo. They become one. And I do that because after I add the white stroke, I want to make this easier for me to trim down after I print it, because I want it to be the same size. I don't have to worry about measuring, because no matter how hard I try, I cannot visualize balance on the stroke around a photo just to freehand cut it. So what I do is once I convert this to a smart object, I then come back in and I add another stroke. And when I add that stroke, I put it on the outside. I make sure this on the outside, that way I have the nice straight lines, the straight edges. And I make it a very light gray. And the reason why I make it a very light gray is because when it then prints as a very faint gray line, and I cut right on that line. So it allows me to have the precise look that I want, and it's also balanced. No major mess ups on the sizing. So here's the puppy dog. He gets to celebrate the birthday. And then from here, I did bring in that label again. I want to show you another thing that I created here. So I brought in this label, and I think that might be the size that I want it, but I need to make sure. Before I finalize that label, let me find the birthday cake. Because this dog was all about the birthday cake on his first birthday. You can tell he had too much based on the way he's attacking that birthday hat. So I wanted the cake to go underneath the tab or the label, and there you go. And another thing that you can do, since I was just talking to you a few minutes ago about the stroke, is like on this, you can already see that this has a white stroke around the whole cake. If you want to make it easier for you to cut, if you don't have your own cutting machine, adding that light gray stroke line on the outside of this gives you that cut line to follow, so that way you keep this clean, balanced look around your element. And even though I do have cut machines, I tend to hand cut a lot I tend to do a lot of fussy cutting by hand. For some reason, I really enjoy it. So I have my cake there. I think I want this label to be just a little bit bigger. We're going to stretch that out. There we go. Yeah, that works for me. Now, what I'm going to do is I want to kind of cut this label part out, because I'm going to clip something to it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here to my object selection tool, and I come here and I'm going to select it. I'm going to mask it and create a new layer. Now, so you can see there's a label part of that tab. I'm going to go ahead and bring my whole label back, because you can see I have them both here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to clip birthday boy to this. So I bring in this birthday boy word art, trying to stretch it out there. Adjust it to make sure it looks balanced. And then what I do is I actually end up merging. I convert them all to a smart object. So now they are one object. So when I print it, it's going to print as one. And then I'm going to add some, I did like these little party hats. And since he was all about the party hats, I thought the party hats was, a cute little addition to this layout. I felt like it was a must. And I'm not worried about this cake hanging over, because when I actually assemble it, I end up cutting that part of it off. But it's just so that I have a good idea of how it's going to lay out on my page. So that's why I have it like that. And you just kind of play. Figure out where you want the birthday hats. And then the only other thing that I'm going to add to this is I wanted to add some washi tape. I love washi tape. I actually have a printer that I can print washi tape on. And I am bringing this in because for my actual layout, I did import this design into my washi tape printer, and I use it to create my own washi tape. So this is how I digitally created my hybrid layout, and before I printed it. Now I'm good with how this looks. So here's what I do to my background. So we have all this word art here attached. What I do is I select it all and I merge it. It's now one page. So I can move this page, and this is usually what I do. Usually what I do is I just move this to a blank screen, an 8.5 by 11, and then I print it from that screen, because I make sure that when I print that I'm converting my image to a CMYK color mode. And I do this to make sure that when I print, I get the best color pigment possible. If I don't do that, and depending on the paper, you can come out with some really funky results and end up being frustrated. So that is what I do to make sure that my color stays very true to color as it is digitally. And usually when it's prints, it is very, very true to color. There's a little bit of variation, but it's very subtle, and it's not something that I'm unhappy with. Now for the do the same thing for this background. I end up just merging these papers together with my mask so that it's one object. Now the balloons, I merge them together when I attach the paper to them, but I'm not going to merge these together as one piece, because I need them cut out individually to create the layers. For this one, I will merge the word Celebrate to the tab so that they become one for the whole printing purpose. So there's an overview of my process for how I created this in preparation for printing. I hope you enjoyed it.